Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Happy last Tuesday of July, a month into the third quarter of the year. Hope everything's going well. Welcome to the studio sessions of the Speakers Collaborative, a weekly event where we bring in guests who are alums of the Speakers Collaborative or other speakers or experts. I'm happy today to have my good friend Evan Marks join us. Evan is pinch hitting. Thanks, Evan, for stepping in here at the last.
My pleasure, brother. My pleasure.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Our other guest, Susan, keep her in your prayers. She had a family issue come up, I believe, and she will join us later on for another session. So, Evan, hey, buddy, thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming on board. Why don't you tell us who you are?
Thank you for having me. I'm excited about this. I'll fill in any day of the week for you, my friend. Any
All
day.
right. See you tomorrow, too. Tell us who you are.
So my name is Evan Marks. I am a mental performance coach. I'm a founder of the M1Performance group. I've been coaching for about 7 years. I work anywhere with NASCAR race drivers, athletes, C-suite executives, Wall Street professionals. I've been doing this for about 7 years. Prior to that, I spent most of my career on Wall Street as a hedge fund manager. And I retired in 2017. I had the opportunity to get into mental performance coaching. And I've never looked back, and I've never been happier. So I'm it's been a hell of a ride.
Now tell me what a mental health performance coach does, or mental.
So M1, what we do is we take modern psychoanalysis, where Freud meets the latest research in neuroscience and how the brain works. So when we talk about mental performance, we're talking about how the mind-body connection actually works. So emotions are important. Emotions give us data. You know, when we used to hear like, don't feel that way, so-called negative emotions, fear, embarrassment, frustration, rage, we were told to get rid of those. But we know now that these perceived negative emotions carry incredible intensity. And as coaches, our job is to bring the unconscious conscious. So bringing things conscious is not void of emotions. Actually, emotions give us data, but we use that data to pick behaviors consciously. So where behaviors in the past served you and they no longer serve you now, that's our job now to, whether it's fear, nervousness, rage, I can tie a new behavior to that to create a new experience that's advantageous to me, to my client, to whoever it may be. So when we are in difficult times, challenging situations, we actually have the opportunity to not survive, but thrive. And that's done through acknowledging emotions, giving yourself mental space, consciously choosing a behavior, asking yourself a self-exploratory question. And actually then the experience is different. So now when the brain predicts into the future, as opposed to past experiences, we now are creating new ones. So that we actually, wait a second, I can do that. So it's through repetition, visualization, breathing, exploring the past, understanding the why, so we can get to a how and really create a better performance, better future, better presence, all that type of stuff. It's pretty fascinating stuff.
That is fascinating. So, you know, part of what we do at the Speakers Collaborative is get people who have unlocked that part of their brain and who are ready to take themselves from amateur to pro or whatever they want to do. We help them launch. Part of the reason I wanted to talk to you today, Evan, was because you recently spent a lot of money to get a lot of things produced for yourself that really is exactly what I do. So I wanted you to go through the steps you took to decide what you actually needed for your career, for what you want to use your content for. How did you just settle on what you needed?
Well, it's interesting. You know, I worked for a company before I started M1. I worked for a previous coaching company, and I had no social media presence. Remember, I was a hedge fund guy for 23 years. There was no need for social media. I was non-existent. So I figured, like, you know what? I've been on stage before. So if I'm going to introduce M1Performance Group, I better get on board. So I reached out to a couple of people and I said, listen, I have prior footage, but we need to do something that shows my brand. I'm originally from New York. I lived there all my life. And so we came up with that, say, like, what do we need to do to illustrate my passion, my presence, and what I want this brand to be all about? You know, it has to highlight the athletes I work with, the CEOs I work with, the Wall Street, which is, I work with many professionals, but that was a part of me also. So we went around the city. So I had this incredible film guy, and I didn't want it to be just straightforward. I wanted it to be live and action, and there's action around me, just to feel this incredible power, but the power of what we're all capable of doing, how big we can be. And that's what I wanted to portray in this video. And, you know, nothing like 13 hours of shoot for a minute 30 video.
Yep.
Right. It took a long time to get to, but it's one of those things, Cody, where, like, I want people, if they feel small, they have the power to be bigger. And that's what I wanted to portray in this video.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I did my own production earlier to promote the collaborative, and my videographer, really great guy named Clint, followed me around town with a drone. I was literally walking up and down the streets, and this drone was, you know, right there following me around. And I had somebody send me a text, "Hey, did I see you walking down the street with a drone following you?" Yeah, that's me.
You know, it's so funny because so we were at Madison Square Garden, and the guy had a drone, and he took this thing up above Madison Square Garden, and he said, "Just stand there," because cops started to come. I guess you're not. I don't know. He's got a license. He's like, "Don't move, Ed. We're getting killer footage." I'm like, I don't even see this thing. And then all of a sudden he goes, "Just stand still," and all of a sudden the drone goes. I'm like, I hope that was good. I was frightened to death. But it's pretty cool though.
Right. That's fun. Tell me an interesting fact about you, other than hedge fund manager, badass, all that stuff.
Interesting fact about me. I was, you know, it's interesting how I got into coaching, and it's interesting. I was a Division I lacrosse player, and I blew my knees out twice, and I ended my career pretty quickly. I only lasted a season and a half. And I held on to that weakness, that fear, that embarrassment, that shame that I couldn't play anymore. You know, I always had this identity as a student athlete. And when that happened, I can say now it really, really hurt. But I was never able to get over for 15 years until I finally spoke to somebody about it. Because I don't want people to know that I was feeling fragile. I was feeling weak. But it was showing up in my behaviors in ways that were unconscious. And it took, and it's interesting, this is how I got into coaching. I'm like, I was struggling. And when I spoke to somebody about it, 15 years of struggling with this, it started to open up my eyes of what I'm capable of doing. And I'm so glad I did, because it took my career to a different level. So when I coach now, it's obviously a great business to be in, but there's a massive altruistic part of it, because I think we all need help, right? And it's all right to look for it. So that fact of me blowing out my knees, and I've had many surgeries, and I have new shoulders, I'm getting a knee put in, so I've really terrorized my body. But being able to be open to it, was a big deal. You know, I had an identical twin brother who went to school with me and played ball, and he became captain, and I felt inadequate. And I lived with that for a long time. Nobody else knew. But it was this void. And I'm so glad I went to go speak to somebody about it. And it really changed the trajectory of my life. And here I am right now talking with you. I'm on social media. I've got incredible clients. And I wake up in the morning just happy and grateful and excited. So that's a little fact about me.
I love it. It's fascinating that you went there. So our last collaborative studio session, we had Peter Milner as our guest. Peter and I talked heavily about mental health and getting help. And I think it's what you said is just another person who talks about strong men still need to worry about their mental health, and they still need to say they need help. And I really love that you went there already, because I think it's important for men to get on here and say that, you know, ask for help. Absolutely. Everybody needs to be able to ask for help. It's just people that look like us don't typically do it. And we just frankly make everybody around us miserable.
We have such a great opportunity now. I think I believe in the last 5, 6, 7 years, there's been such a
Mhm.
shift to, we know what material wealth is, cars, houses, but there's such a shift to holistic wealth,
Yeah.
which is well-being, which is discipline, but discipline in the form of self-care.
Right.
People listen more. People understand. We're more empathetic. We're more compassionate. We all need help, but we all need support. We all do it. Why do the greatest people in the world have coaches, right? Mental coaches, because they understand the value. And I'm not talking my book, but they understand the value of help. They
That's right.
understand the value of being vulnerable.
Mhm.
Because you know why? Nobody's perfect, but we all want to get better. We want to live a more fulfilling life, whatever that may be to you. And the greatest part about it is we have a chance to do that. We have
Right.
that opportunity to do that. And I think that's an
Right.
incredible thing.
Right. So good. So well said.
Thank you.
So I know I gave you about a 20-minute notice to be on the show. I appreciate it. One of the things we do every week is we give our guests a moment in the spotlight to talk about whatever you want to talk about. So you want to take about 5 minutes and talk to us about whatever it is?
Yeah. It's what I do a lot is about learned behavior, right? So when you take modern psychoanalysis, which is, 0 to 15, a lot of things we do often is repeated patterns. And sometimes we don't pick up on it because we think the situation is different, but we're actually behaving the same way. So a part of my practice and a part of, I call it the unraveling the spaghetti, if you may, is starting to understand of like where we're starting from. As children, we're told certain things, we're taught certain things, we see certain things. And oftentimes now, as we grow up and become adults, those lessons no longer serve us. So a part of change, a part of growth, a part of evolving is unraveling that. It's almost like our brains are wired in a certain way. And we have through neuroscience latest, which we know about neuroplasticity, we could actually rewire our brains to no longer survive, but to actually thrive. And that's an incredible thing. So how do we do it? Right? There's simple mental models of acknowledging feelings. How am I feeling? How am I feeling and why? To giving yourself mental space. Maybe you don't know the why, right? You need something called resistance. But by asking that question, we're able to stimulate the unconscious. It may not show its hand immediately, but the ball starts to roll. So once we're able to acknowledge feelings, how am I feeling and why? And we give ourselves mental space, right? What is mental space? We don't react. Giving ourselves mental space puts in this position to be proactive. So from there, we get to actually give ourselves space to actually choose a behavior that's advantageous for us now, right? We choose a behavior, then what happens? The experience changes. Now, this has to be done repeated, right? Like anything else, it's a mental workout. But I find some of the most fulfilling things are when we're able to say, wow, I can't believe I didn't react. I'm so proud that I somewhat stayed in the pocket and made a decision, the best decision I can at that time. And what happens is through this repetition, we are actually building new channels in our brain. So when I said earlier, my job is to make the unconscious conscious, right? Bringing things that are in the darkness, in the back, to light. So imagine if we're able to pause and start choosing behaviors that benefit us today and are advantageous for the future. We all have this, whether you're an athlete, C-suite executive, solopreneur, entrepreneur, Wall Street professional. We have ability to slow down in order to speed up, to become more intentional with our behavior in order to see growth. Sometimes we say progress is elusive, but when we're very intentional about building this foundation, building these new pathways, progress picks up, right? To slow down, to speed up. And then what happens is that through this consistency with evidence, right? We have new behavior, new experiences. We start to build this internal under the radar confidence. And that is an incredible thing to feel, to observe, and to embody. As coaches, we want the best, right? I can't guarantee results, but I know that when things start to compound, things start to change in our favor, right? I don't know if you can, you start this on a Tuesday, if you change on a Wednesday, can't tell you. But what happens though is that when we start building this foundation, this new foundation of thriving based on new experiences, which is not void of past feelings, because sometimes we feel the way we feel. We can't control feelings, but we sure as hell can control behavior. And as we build this incredible foundation, brick by brick, repetition, intentionality, what we get to do is leverage it, right? So a lot of this sounds like therapy, but the coaching side is building this incredible foundation so we can leverage it and stretch ourselves. Nick Saban said once, like, we all have this capability gap, right? And there's no such thing as perfection, but we have so much gas in our tank to live to this incredible potential. And, and it makes it such a more meaningful life to have this kind of mindset, right? Consistency with evidence builds confidence. You have to slow down in order to speed up. Precision over perfection. Like, these sound like words, right? It sounds intellectual. When you start to embody this and literally live this way, anything's possible. Anything is possible. When our belief systems change, we don't know what we're capable of doing. And that's the exciting part for anybody, for all of us. Yeah, it's amazing. I think, and just to leave this at that. When we start to become students of ourselves, when we are interested in how the brain works, thoughts, emotions, behavior, experiences, how the brain's wired, it's such a fascinating world to be in. I could talk about this for 5 hours, by the way. You could have left me on here. This stuff is amazing. It's just absolutely amazing what we're capable of.
Yeah.
If we give ourselves space and not react, not be on fight or flight all the time. Being able to, move your nervous system from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic. Mm-hmm. All these things are incredible.
And it's amazing.
I'm very passionate about this.
I like it. It's amazing when you actually start to look at our physiology, how we were actually created to harness those different aspects, right? So I just a year ago learned about the parasympathetic nervous system, and
digestion. Yeah,
it's digestion. It's breathing through your nose and not your mouth. It's breathing deep. It's all the stuff. So I encourage everybody, explore the different ways that our bodies are built to live the best life we can, and to get to know what we already have. And I think if anybody really needs help with that, I happen to know a guy named Evan who can coach you through the process.
Who likes doing what he does. Yeah. But even that simple breath work, right? Yeah. Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 8. Move sympathetic, which is fight or flight. And when Cody just said into parasympathetic, which is rest and digestion, you can feel the shift. Stand up. When you feel this, rigidity versus fluidity, you want to be in a fluid state, get up, move your nervous system. Mm-hmm. That little step gives you space.
Yep.
It's amazing. We have it. We have it all here. Give yourself a chance.
I think you said earlier, slow down to speed up.
Slow down to speed up.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Right? Be intentional. Dot the I's, cross the T's in the beginning, because it will pay dividends.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Question: what are you reading these days?
I just finished. That's so funny because somebody asked. I just finished Hidden Potential by Adam Grant.
Oh, that's a good
Power. He's got one line in there. Procrastination is not the lack of effort; it's the fear of a future feeling.
Mm.
And when we talk about emotions and behavior and past experiences, it all plays into it. Fascinating stuff. Yeah, I highly recommend the book. It's great.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Other books. So you posted the other day on habit stacking. Talk to us a little bit about habit stacking and how we can do that to get from A to Z without failing because we want to jump straight from one to the other.
Right. Well, so that goes back down to the slow down to speed up there, right? But what habit stacking is, you want to keep things very simple, right? So we want to stack things around things that we usually do, right? So in that post, I mentioned I have a dog named Gigi, right? This little 20-pound dog. So obviously she has to go out, right? So before I put her leash on, I crush 25 push-ups, right? I don't listen to any podcast. I just want to breathe when I'm with her. I want to be present. That's incredible practice. And then I'll knock out a couple lunges with her as I'm walking. And as she's doing her business, I'll do a couple of air squats. But before you know it, and I come back, and when she's done, I crank another 25. So she goes out, my wife takes her out also. I take her out twice a day. I just did 100 push-ups. Nice. I probably did about 45 air squats. I don't know how many lunges. I've done some good breath work, right, for 30 minutes. I'm outside. So what do we just knock out? Upper body, lower body, breath work, moving my nervous system, in nature, sunlight, and no distractions. That's habit stacking, right? So how do we, there's so many places we can do this. Like, think about that. I just knocked out in an hour and I'm much better off for it, right? I practiced so many different things in that little walking a dog.
Yeah.
Little G.
Yeah. I could only be more impressed if you were barefoot the whole time.
So anyway, you want to hear a funny story? So I used to ruck. So I wear a lot of black for some reason. So I had a 60-pound vest, and I used to walk around town with no shoes on. So people would walk by and say, "We saw your husband with no shoes with this vest on." So what happened was, I'm walking, and all of a sudden a cop car came next to me. Somebody called somebody about a suspicious man with a vest on.
And no shoes.
So I got home, my wife's like, "The vest is done. It's over." But I do all that stuff. I think earthing's huge.
Nice.
Right? All that stuff is great.
Yeah, but habit stacking, I think, is a life hack because it doesn't require that you change your life radically today. Nope. It requires that you have one thing you add on to the end of brushing your teeth. Yep. That's it.
But, it's funny when you say brushing your teeth, right? Okay, I want to work on my brain. I use my left hand instead of my right, right? I want to take a cold shower at night or it's hot shower. I want to be able to breathe in the shower. So now we're putting routines together.
Right.
And it starts this little ripple effect. Coffee in the morning, right? Before you have your cup of coffee, I just got into this whole gratitude movement. I mean, I know I'm a little late to the game, but I write down a couple lines of gratefulness, what I'm grateful for, and I'll give myself a minute to feel how I want to visualize the day. But it's as the coffee's going. Boom. Right.
Yeah.
And now it's been a habit now, right? Now, after a while, it becomes unconsciously conscious and part of what you do.
Yeah. That's brilliant.
We just have to remind ourselves to start.
I think for a lot of us, we have to give ourselves permission to start.
That is very true. Right. We have to give ourselves permission for a lot of things. Permission to feel, permission to succeed. Give yourself permission to feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
And it sounds so weird to say that, but it's extremely true. And it's so incredibly valuable.
Right.
Right? Give it a shot. For people listening, it may sound ridiculous. What do you mean permission to feel, permission to succeed? What does that mean? Say it to yourself, but don't say it to yourself in your head. Verbalize it. Let it come out.
That's right. Somebody told me once, it was a doctor, that when your ears hear something and your brain processes it, it doesn't matter if it's you saying it or if it's somebody else. Your brain processes it the same. So what you're saying about actually verbalizing what you want, it makes your brain hear it as if somebody else is saying it. Like as if Evan, you say it to me, is the same as me saying it to me.
Right.
And so a lot of times when we are internalizing what we want, we really need to bring it out and say the words and let ourselves hear those words out loud.
It's a big part of my practice, being able to verbalize how you feel. I'm scared, I'm nervous. What happens when you verbalize it, including what you just said, Cody, but like all these feelings that we're afraid of, supposedly. But when they leave our mouth and it comes into the light, the intensity starts to come down. Right? Because if we don't verbalize things, you know what happens? It stays in the back of your mind. It starts to build momentum and intensity, starts to pick a different narrative. All we have to do is acknowledge, verbalize.
That's right.
And it sounds so silly, but it's so effective.
That's right.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, I do it. I think my kids think I'm a schizophrenic. Yeah, I'm just always thought.
Hey, look, my wife gets a little annoyed because when I get in bed at night, I say out loud, I cannot wait to wake up in the morning. I'm going to feel amazing. And do you know, I do.
Yeah.
And I can tell a difference when I don't do it. So
it's funny. I have a coach that coaches me, and he helps me, just certain things. And he, it's that auto suggestion before you go to bed, right? Because it just does things in the unconscious. It's amazing. Even like, I want to have a beautiful dream tonight. These things happen.
Right.
The unconscious, the brain, the mind, it's incredible.
Yeah.
But it's really, I always tell clients, I'm like, you have to, do you want to feed the dog or the wolf? Who are we feeding today? So you have to feed yourself the right things.
Right.
The way we speak to ourselves, the things that we consume. It's so important because it really leaves an imprint on your psyche.
That's right. That's so true.
Right? You have to be the number one priority in your life. Otherwise, everything else doesn't work.
Yeah. So
and
Evan,
that's selfless. Go ahead.
When I come to New York, when I bring the Speakers Collaborative to New York, are you on my stage?
I'm on the stage.
Awesome.
I got a lot to talk about.
I couldn't tell.
I am on the stage. Yeah.
I couldn't tell. Last week was a tough week for the collaborative. We pulled the plug on our Texas event because we didn't have enough speakers interested. It was also in August. It was also my kid's first day of school.
Timing.
A lot of reasons. But we will be back in Texas. We will be in New York. Talked to a wonderful person from LA today, looking at going to California. Colorado Springs is in the works. That probably will be the next one that happens. But the Speakers Collaborative for me was when I verbalized what I wanted in life, when I said the words out loud, and then I had to follow that statement with action. The Speakers Collaborative is what came out of that. And I tell people all the time, I built a stage. I built it for me, right? But it's not mine anymore. So I built that stage for everybody else to get on. And whether or not you want to be a professional speaker, whether or not you want to launch your coaching business and need collateral, you want to be a stand-up comedian, whatever it is, you need a stage, and I've got it. So, Evan, when I come to New York, I hope to see you on my stage.
I got a lot of restaurants for us to eat at, by the way.
Yeah, you can. I need to do the 25 push-ups while taking the dog out.
Everybody should do it. It's so simple.
Yeah.
And then we could just eat as much steak and things, whatever you want when we get to New York.
Well, what restaurant are we going to then?
I was just there last week. I went to this beautiful place called the Butchery. It's in the West Village.
Okay.
Great
Good
place.
Stuff.
Great place. I only know New York by restaurants. It's funny. We go away, I have a brother who lives in Sydney, Australia, and everything revolves around food. Everything's food related. So you're in good hands.
We have some Australian viewers.
Oh, so do you?
Where should they go in Australia?
Well, so my brother started a chain of restaurants called Guzmani Gomez, and there is about 180, I think, in Australia, in Singapore, Tokyo, and they're in Chicago. So it's Mexican. It's a Mexican kitchen. The food is outrageous.
Guzmani Gomez.
Guzman, and they call it GYG in Australia. It's all over the place, and it's just an incredible experience. The people are incredible.
I'm going to try it. Now, tell me, if people want to find you, where do they find you?
My website is M1Performancegroup.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'll be on TikTok soon. So you'll find me. Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
Evan, I'd love to hear from you. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for last minute joining us today. I hope to have you again soon. We will definitely give you a little bit more time on the stage since you have a lot to say and I want to hear it. So,
Cody, it was a pleasure, and thank you for having me.
Evan, hang out a bit in the waiting room. I'll be right with you.
Done.
Thank you. And everybody else, thanks for joining us at the Speakers Collaborative Studio session. I'm really excited about what the future holds for our speakers. And remember, we built a stage. Get on it.